Welcome to the first Habs Summer Target with hockey coach Gold Frenchies directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. And my both co-hosts of this show, Mr. Marko Larabi and Mr. Enortap, are back in the house with me on this great first episode of the Habs Summer Target. And I can always see Marko and Enortap fans, Montreal Canadiens, said what is all about. And Marko, I would love you explain this. We're going to do for the next couple of weeks.
Yes, coach. Well, Habs fans right now, they're all talking about the same thing, right? Like we're watching the playoffs, we're watching the Leafs lose and all those things, and it's all fun. But we know that Habs fans are focused on the draft, and they're all talking about what's Kent Hughes going to do at the draft. What is he going? Are there going to be trades? Are they going to be targeting UFAs? Guys, we have a 3-part series for you. We're excited to bring it to you. It's what we call Habs Summer Targets. In this first episode today, we're going to establish who we think is in and out based on the existing roster. We'll take a look then at what the projected lineup is for us on this show. And then that will kind of give us an idea of, okay, so how many spots potentially are open moving forward? And then if there are open spots, who would Montreal maybe potentially target either via a trade or UFA? We'll have 3 episodes. First today is who's in, who's out. Then we're going to have the second one about potential UFA targets. And then we're going to have a third one about potential trade targets. Guys, I hope you did your research. We might have some hot takes, and we'll be very curious to see what people think in the comments.
Awesome. Let's start right away. And in our time, you're going to be on the hot seat with who is out as a defenseman, or maybe nobody will be out. We all returning for the upcoming season. We have right now Harris, Strobel, Kovacevic, and Barron, and you can targeting other players maybe you think they could be out for the season 2024-2025.
Yeah, coach, it's exciting, although of course this is very speculative because so many things can happen along the way. But as we all know, our greatest assets happen to be at defense. We've collected a lot of very good young players over the years through the draft and a couple through trades as well. So when I looked at this, I definitely saw the possibility of somebody like Kovacevic, as much as I like the fact that he was a 7th defenseman to come in at times. Unfortunately, with the emergence of guys like Reinbacher and Hudson and Mailou, who are going to be ready to obviously showcase their talents at the beginning of the year, will take probably one of those spots. I think somebody like Harris will probably be on the outs as well, because he might be part of a trade, and dealing with the greatest assets, it's defense. So I see those two possibly going out. I don't see them giving up on Struble or Barron, but I don't believe it'll be necessarily in a starting role. They might be either one of the extras to start off with, or they might start off in Laval.
Marko?
Well, coach, I'll say, we know that Barron is no longer going to be waiver, he'll be waiver eligible, right? That's a huge factor, right? They're going to have to make a decision on Barron. And overall, when you look at the defense core, yes, we want, Kent Hughes has talked about being patient and everything, but at the end of the day, Father Time is going to start forcing them to make decisions, and Barron is kind of one of the first ones that is coming up on that list, right? So either he's going to be in Montreal, but it's going to be like Primo, right? They're not just going to send him down. Kent Hughes hates losing assets for nothing, right? If they don't see him in their plans, then you can see him moving. If you don't see him get traded, then that equals that they see him. They haven't given up on him, and they still see him as part of the future. What that means for me, like Enortap, I agree. Kovacevic, very useful player, very serviceable guy, and give us good minutes. But I just with everything going on, I just see him as an expendable piece. So I think Kovacevic out. I think, like most people, I see Harris as probably the left-handed piece that would be most likely to move. But yeah, I would say Harris and Kovacevic as well.
Awesome. If you put someone out, you have to put someone in. And we have right now Reinbacher, Hudson, Mailloux, or Adam Ekstrom.
I don't see, I don't see more than 2 new defensemen being able to pierce the lineup next year. I get a sense that Mayu just seems a little closer to the NHL, like to be able to face the rigors of the full 82 game season, and like just the size and the strength that he has. I think for sure Hudson is going to get some games. There's no question about that, but it's going to be tough. Like who is he? They're not going to want to play him as have him on the roster as a seventh defenseman, or maybe they would. Maybe they'll do a load management thing, right? Keep him as a seventh defenseman and play him every third game or something like that. I think Reinbacher certainly would benefit from another year in Laval just to really kind of get the North American game under his belt. Not that he didn't display really good adaptation in his time in Laval, but it's still a pretty small sample size, right? I think he'll see some games in Montreal, but I just don't think he'll start there. Engstrom, I think same thing. Like he's going to need to see some time in Laval. If he signs his ELC, he hasn't even signed his entry-level contract.
Enortap?
Yeah, there's so many possibilities here, Coach. Again, this is our area of strength right now. I sort of have a bit of a different take on it, and because there's so many young players that we currently have, and there's a next tier of young players, as you can see there, that will be coming up. I think this is where Montreal will probably make a move in terms of trying to acquire a UFA to help stabilize the backfield a little bit more. And having said that, I could see obviously Montreal will have Savard in the lineup. Should they trade him at trade deadline time, that might be the entry point for somebody like Mailou, I think, especially since, as Marko was saying, he seems to be the most ready in terms of jumping into the lineup at this stage. I think Hudson could have a very strong possibility for starting as long as you insulate him well. And that's what I was thinking about in terms of acquiring that UFA. The person that I have in mind, which we'll discuss later, will definitely do that and help him sort of come along a long way into the NHL. So yeah, I think Reinbacher needs another year to sort of, and same thing with Engstrom. I say Hudson and Mailou at different points will be in, and the other two will be in Laval.
Now for the forward, let's start with who is out.
I think some of it, to start off the year, you'll see some of these faces there. I think RHP will probably be on the wing on the fourth line for Montreal. I think Dvorak will be obviously there to start off with, but I think he'll be traded at either before the trade deadline time or at that point there, which creates the possibility that somebody like a Beck can come in if he's ready at that point. Pezzetta, let's go with Islandon first. I mean, he had every opportunity this year on different lines with Montreal. Fortunately, was not able to capitalize in any one of the chairs that he was given. And it's going to be very difficult for him to hang around. So I would say he's on the way out. Pezzetta is the interesting piece here, because here you have a player that's very satisfied with playing the role that he is. He's a guy that toes the company line and he doesn't disrupt the chemistry of the team. Doesn't question if he sits 2 or 3 games before he sees his next action. So he's great to have around the team, and also on a lesser degree to have him there for his physical presence as well. To me, he's the piece that's going to be a little bit more difficult to figure out. I think if they can afford to keep him as the 13th, 14th player, they will.
Well, yeah. So Enortap. So if you still have Pezzetta, as a 13th forward, then that means that you've magically been able to get rid of Anderson or Gallagher. I just don't think that's going to be possible.
That's right.
I agree. Ylonen, I just don't think that they're going to re-up him. I think he's gone. I think Dvorak starts the year. I think you're probably right there in terms of somebody at the trade deadline. But I see RHP as the 13th forward. Because I just don't think that they're going to be able to move anybody else, like with those big contracts. And we'll see kind of what the lines look like after we're done here. So for me, I think Pezzetta is kind of the odd man out. Good warrior and everything, guys. I agree, but probably somebody that will end up on waivers. And who knows? We know that the Flyers have been looking at Pezzetta. There's always been these rumors that the Flyers want to pick him up. Potentially, we see Pezzetta get picked up by the Philadelphia Flyers or another team on waivers, or he goes to.
But at the end of this, if you put 1 or 2 out, we have to put who is in. And do you believe Owen Beck, Joshua Roy, or Emil Henneman could be a part of this, or maybe another players like Alex Stock or Jacky or any other prospect Montreal they have really?
Well, the players are the ones that really decide, right? Training camp, if you have a good training camp, any management team is going to make room for whoever is going to be deserving that spot, right? But if you had to use your logic, based on what Joshua Roy showed in the end of the season, I think he's going to have a lot of rope to kind of make the team. He didn't have a great camp last year, so he's going to have a strong camp. He's going to have to earn it. Beck might get some games during the year, but I just think that they're going to want him to go down. For me, I think Roy is in. I don't see anybody else. I didn't really like Heinemann's development that much in Laval, to be honest. I'm not as high on him as some other people are. I just don't see the hockey IQ there. For me, Roy is probably, I think Beck will get some games, but I'm pretty confident that unless Roy really, really has a bad camp, that I suspect that we'll see him start the year in Montreal.
Enortap?
Yeah, in terms of certainty, I mean, as far as certainty can take us here, I think Roy showed that when he was up here, he was definitely deserving of being here. And we saw improvement in his play as well. And then he had the opportunity. Unfortunately, when he got hurt, he was going to be going down to Laval anyways. But I think he's definitely in from the start of the year. I still maintain that Dvorak will probably be traded at some point earlier at the trade deadline time, which opens that door for Owen Beck to slide in. Of course, provided that it's merited. That's always a key preemptor for that. And unfortunately, Heinemann, you're absolutely right, Marko. He's had some opportunities. I know injuries have played a part, but he just hasn't shown the consistency that is necessary on a game in and game out basis. We've seen flashes, but we haven't seen the consistencies that's needed. So he probably will stay in Laval an extra year.
All right. And that's conclude what we're thinking who is out, who is in. But what happening now in Enortap and Marko, this is the line for the Montreal Canadiens for the upcoming season 2024-2025 for what we just talked about. We don't talk about too much about this, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a good lineup for the Montreal Canadiens. And you can see we have the one blue spot, Marko and Enortap, on the second line beside Newhook and Dak. And that's what's happening for the next show, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about the UFA targeting for the Montreal Canadiens. Do you believe it could happen? I don't know, before we leave, if you want to add something else for the who is in or who is out, Marko?
No, just hopefully all three of us are in for 24-25 so we can enjoy the games. But I think confidence level pretty high, Coach, on our analysis. But we're very curious to see what you guys think in the comments. Let us know, did we poo-poo on one of your players? Like, we might get some people who are very mad that we talked about Pizzetta. So we'll be curious to see what people think in the comments.
And the most important thing, not only you guys, you have to returning, but we have also all the Montreal Canadiens fans should be returning for the upcoming year, 2024-25. That's conclude the first show of the series called the Habs Summer Target. We want to thank Enortap and, of course, Mr. Marko Larrabee to be with me today. Until the next time, remember, you have greatness inside of you, and we wish you an amazing, great, blessed day, everybody.